Just how do you store your onions? There are all kinds of ways you could be doing it. You might keep them on the kitchen counter or prefer to stick them in the pantry, out of sight and smell. Or perhaps you stick them in the vegetable bin in your fridge. Wherever you choose to keep your onions, however, there's a good chance you're doing it all wrong, at least with some of the onions you buy. Onions come in two varieties, sweet ones like Walla Walla and Vidalia, and dry bulb varieties, which are those basic yellow, white, and red onions that are widely available in 2 or 3 pound bags at the supermarket. Each of these different types of onions has its own specific storage needs. Sweet onions, which typically ripen in early summer, have a very high moisture content, meaning the best way to preserve these onions is to store them in the refrigerator. The National Onion Council, which, yes, is a thing, recommends that you wrap each onion you're storing in its own paper towel. This will absorb any excess moisture before you place it in your vegetable bin. You will still need to use all of your sweet onions within a few weeks, however, as otherwise they might get moldy.
Bah!
As their name implies, dry bulb onions are less moist than sweet onions and, as such, can be stored for months, if you do it right. The best place to store them is in a cool, dry spot with a temperature ideally around 40 to 45 degrees, such as a garage or a basement. If you really want an easy way to preserve those onions, though, here's a tip from the Spruce Eats involving an old but clean pair of pantyhose. First, inspect the onions for soft spots, mold, or sprouting. Just throw out any onions with these defects. If the onions are okay, though, cut off the legs from the pantyhose and drop an onion down into each leg. Knot it, then add another onion, continuing until the legs are full or you run out of onions. Hang up the onion hose, then simply cut a slit into one of the tied-off sections each time you need to access an onion. You can add new onions via these same slits, so the same pair of pantyhose can be used over and over for all of your onion storing needs. Helpfully, it's also quite possible to slice or dice both sweet and dry bulb varieties of onion and then freeze them for later use. Chopped onions can last for up to 6 months in the freezer if properly stored in airtight containers. Once thawed, however, they will be somewhat limp and watery, so they really can't be used in place of fresh onions. If you use them in soups, stews, or other cooked dishes, though, no one will ever know the difference. Yet another method, which will allow you to preserve as many onions as you like for later use, involves cooking the onions first before you store them. Peel and chop all of the onions you wish to use, trying for a nice, even, uniform slice so they cook evenly. Then sauté the onions in a little oil or butter until translucent. If you're preparing a large amount, you may need to fry them in several smaller batches. Once the cooked onions have cooled, seal them in Ziploc baggies or resealable containers within a few hours. You can keep cooked onions in your refrigerator for 5 days, but if you freeze them, they should last for 3 months. Whether you're storing your onions in the fridge, pantry, or pantyhose, however, the one place you should make sure they are not is anywhere near your potatoes. That's because raw potatoes release moisture, which can accelerate the onion's rate of spoilage. This, of course, only applies to these vegetables in their uncooked states. Once potatoes and onions have been married in the frying pan, they settle down quite nicely together. In fact, they're kinda nice. But you already know that, don't you? Check out one of our newest videos right here. Plus, even more mashed videos about your favorite foods are coming soon. Subscribe to our YouTube channel and hit the bell so you don't miss a single one.